I was walking through my neighborhood the other day, just taking a look around, and I had this moment.
Mm,
The background noise of the suburbs suddenly came into focus. I was looking at a driveway that was just caked in this gray grime.
the kind you see every day.
Exactly. And then I looked up at the roof of the house next door, which had this thick green moss growing on the north side. And usually I just walk past that. It's just chores.
It's the stuff we all try to ignore until the HOA sends a letter.
Totally. But because we've been buried in this stack of research all week, my brain didn't see chores. I saw margins.
Mm.
I realized I wasn't looking at dirt. I was looking at one of the highest margin, fastest ROI opportunities in the entire service economy. It's funny how a little data changes your perspective on a dirty sidewalk.
It really does. It's the classic case of where there's muck, there's brass, or in this case, where there's algae, there's profit.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the business analysis of pressure washing or power washing, depending on who you ask. And I want to set the stage here. If you're listening and thinking, okay, it's just spraying water, how complex can this be? You are in for a surprise.
Oh, yeah.
We've pulled together market data from the USA, Canada, the UK, and the European Union, and the financial structures behind this industry are fascinating.
Absolutely. We aren't just talking about cleaning. We're looking at a business model with deceptively low barriers to entry, but a technical ceiling that separates the guy with a truck from multi-million-dollar enterprises.
So what's the mission today?
The mission is to unpack the economics of dirt. We need to explain why this specific service has such a high return on investment.
And they split pretty clearly depending on where you are in the world.
That's right. We've been calling it the Atlantic Divide of dirt.
I found this part really interesting. In the US and Canada, the data suggests the primary driver is almost entirely curb appeal.
It's financial and it's psychological. In North America, real estate value is king. A dirty driveway, a stained facade, oil spots.
It can knock thousands off the perceived value of a home.
Tens of thousands, sometimes. So when a homeowner spends, say, $500 to wash the house, they don't see it as a cleaning cost.
They see it as asset protection.
Exactly. It's way cheaper to wash a house than to repaint it.
Right, it's an investment. But then you cross the ocean to the UK and the EU, and the motivation, it just shifts completely.
The sources really highlighted this. In Europe, it's less about vanity and more about structural integrity.
It's the climate, right?
It's the climate. It's significantly damper in the UK and Northern Europe. So you aren't just washing off dust, you are fighting biological growth, moss, algae, lichen.
And the sources were very specific about the damage this stuff causes.
Oh yeah, if you ignore a mossy roofs in a damp climate, that moss acts like a sponge. It holds water against the tiles.
And when winter comes...
That water freezes, it expands, and it cracks the roof tiles.
So in Europe, pressure washing is literally preventative maintenance. It's like changing the oil in your car.
You do it to prevent a massive repair bill down the road. And then on top of all that, you have the commercial sector.
Which is the unsexy industrial side.
Right.
Warehouses, parking lots.
The demand there is driven by safety and compliance.
Totally. If a driver slips on a greasy loading ramp or a customer trips on an oily sidewalk, that's a liability lawsuit.
And that kind of commercial demand is inelastic. It doesn't matter if the economy is down.
A gas station still has to clean up fuel spills. Dirt never takes a holiday.
Okay, let's get into the wow numbers. When I was reading through the profit breakdowns in our sources, I had to double-check them.
They seem high.
They seem incredibly high. We're seeing gross margins listed between 60 and 90%. It sounds high, but you have to look at the cost structure. What are your inputs?
Water.
Usually from the client's tap, some gasoline for the engine, and then some chemicals. That's pretty much it. You don't have expensive raw materials like a restaurant or a builder.
So on a $400 residential job, your hard costs might be, what, $30?
Maybe less. Now, that is gross margin. And when we look at net margin, you have to factor in insurance, vehicle wear and tear, marketing.
Sure.
But even then, the sources suggest net margins for a solo operator can hit 60%.
60. And that's because in the man in a van model, the owner is the laborer, so they capture that entire margin.
Correct. And the hourly earning potential reflects that efficiency. An experienced operator can generate between, say, $100 and $250 per hour.
$250 an hour is serious money.
It is.
And because startup costs are relatively low, the ROI speed is wild. One source noted a focused business can break even on their initial investment within the first active season.
So 3 to 4 months.
which is almost unheard of in brick and mortar.
You're usually looking at an 18 to 24-month break-even horizon for most businesses.
Okay, but this brings me to the skepticism I think a lot of listeners might have. If it's this profitable and easy, why isn't everyone doing it?
Right.
I feel like I could go to the hardware store right now, buy a $200 electric washer, and start charging people.
And you could try, but you would almost certainly fail. And this brings us to what the industry calls the garden hose fallacy.
This is the difference between a homeowner doing it and a pro.
Yes. The sources are pretty brutal about the equipment threshold. You cannot run a business with a big box store electric washer.
Why not?
Well, durability is one thing. Those plastic pumps burn out after 50 hours or so. But the real issue is efficiency. And this leads to the most important technical concept in this entire deep dive.
Okay.
If you want to understand the economics of this business, you have to understand the battle between PSI and GPM.
Let's break that down. PSI is pounds per square inch. That's the pressure.
Right. And amateurs, homeowners, they obsess over PSI. They go to the store and buy the machine with the highest number, thinking 4,000 PSI means it cleans better.
But that's not the whole story.
It's not. The pros know that PSI is just the stripping force. The real secret to profitability is GPM.
Gallons per minute.
Gallons per minute. The flow.
Why does flow matter more than pressure?
Okay, think about it this way. Imagine you have a dirty dinner plate covered in sauce.
Okay.
You could attack it with a tiny high-pressure dental water pick. It would blast the dirt off right where the beam hits, but it would take you 10 minutes to cover the whole plate.
Whereas if I just use the kitchen faucet, which has lower pressure but way more volume.
It rinses the debris away instantly. It's the fire hose effect.
Hmm.
High GPM lets you move the dirt after you lift it.
A machine with 4 GPM cleans literally twice as fast as a machine with 2 GPM. And since you're charging by the job, not by the hour.
Speed equals revenue. If I can finish a driveway in 45 minutes because I have high flow and it takes you 2 hours, I make double the money per hour.
And that explains the price jump in equipment.
That's why the pro setup starts around $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
You aren't paying for pressure. You're paying for that massive water flow.
So let's look at that starter professional tier from the sources. $5,000. What does that actually get you?
That gets you a reliable, belt-driven gas washer, professional hoses, but crucially, it gets you a surface cleaner.
That's that round disc thing, right? Looks like a floor buffer.
Exactly. It hovers over the concrete with a spinning bar and jets underneath. It cleans a 20-inch path in a single pass, and it eliminates those ugly tiger stripes you get from using just a wand.
That tool alone must be a huge time saver.
It probably doubles your efficiency on flat work.
And then there's the commercial level.
Yeah.
The sources put this at $40,000 plus.
That is the big leagues.
Yeah.
That gets you a dedicated truck or trailer with a hot water burner.
Is hot water really necessary? Seems like a luxury.
For residential dirt, no. But for commercial oil and grease, it's mandatory. Cold water just pushes oil around.
It doesn't emulsify it.
Right. If you want those lucrative contracts, cleaning gas stations, drive thrusts, or restaurant loading docks, you have to have heat. Hot water melts the grease so it can actually be washed away.
I want to pivot to technique, because one of the biggest risks mentioned is damage. We've all seen videos of someone just shredding a wooden deck.
Or stripping paint right off a car. Yeah.
That's the rookie mistake that leads to insurance claims.
And it's why the industry has undergone this massive shift in the last decade towards something called soft washing.
Soft washing. Sounds like a contradiction.
It's basically replacing mechanical force with chemical force. The sources all emphasize that for organic growth mold, algae, lichen, you do not use high pressure.
Especially on delicate stuff like roofs or siding.
Definitely. You use a specialized pump to spray chemical mixture at basically garden hose pressure.
And the chemical does the heavy lifting,
It does. The primary chemical is sodium hypochlorite.
which is just bleach.
It's industrial strength bleach,
Yeah.
essentially. You mix it with water and what they call surfactants,
Fancy word for soap.
pretty much. It's a sticky soap that makes the bleach cling to a vertical wall or a steep roof so it doesn't just run off. You let it dwell for 10 or 15 minutes, the chemistry kills everything, and then you just gently rinse it off.
So you aren't blasting the moss off, you're killing it so it falls off.
Exactly. It's safer for the property, and frankly, it produces a better result because it kills the spores so the moss doesn't come back as fast.
And looking at the pricing menu, it pays better too.
Much better. A roof wash using soft wash techniques is typically $500 to $1,500. The perceived value is high because the visual transformation is so dramatic.
Let's zoom out to the business environment again. We talked about the Atlantic Divide for why people clean, but the sources also show a huge difference in how the business operates legally.
Yeah, the environment dictates the hurdles. If you're starting this in the USA or Canada, your number one headache is insurance.
Liability?
The potential for damage is high, and the society is litigious. The sources state that general liability insurance of at least $1 million is standard.
You blow a seal on a window, or the bleach drifts onto the neighbor's prize-winning roses.
Everything dies,
Yeah.
and you get sued. You are one bad job away from bankruptcy without insurance.
And the U.S. market is also fiercely competitive.
You're fighting that guy with a pickup truck who undercuts you. So branding a uniform, a wrap truck, a website, that's how you justify the pro rates.
Now compare that to the UK and the EU.
In the EU, the hurdle is regulation, specifically environmental regulation. In places like Germany or the Netherlands, you often can't just let dirty, oily, runoff water flow into the storm drains.
Which makes sense. Storm drains lead directly to rivers.
Right. So in many municipalities, it's illegal. European operators often need water recovery systems.
What is that? A vacuum?
Basically, yeah. Vacuum berms that suck the dirty water back up off the ground so it can be filtered or disposed of properly.
That sounds like a significant added cost.
It adds about 5,000 pounds or euros to your startup. But there's a silver lining. There are often government grants available for sustainable business practices in the UK and EU.
Yeah.
And the higher barrier to entry filters out some of the low-effort competition.
Let's talk about scaling. We've established that washing a driveway is a good job, but how does it become a business?
That's the key question.
Because if I'm the one holding the wand, I'm limited by how many hours I can physically stand up.
That is the trap of the tactician. The sources describe a very linear scaling model. One machine equals one crew. If you want to double your revenue, you need another truck and 2 more employees.
It's asset-heavy scaling.
It is. But the real wealth generation, the path to that $885,000 EBITDA mentioned in one case study, comes from moving out of the field and into management.
You stop washing and you start selling.
And specifically, you start selling subscriptions.
Ah, commercial contracts.
Yes. You don't want to wait for the shopping mall to call you when the sidewalk is black. You want them to pay you a monthly retainer to show up every 2 weeks and clean the high traffic areas.
Recurring revenue, that's the holy grail for valuation.
It smooths out the cash flow.
Yeah.
And you can layer upsells on top of that. Once you're at a house, you don't just wash the driveway.
Gutter cleaning, window cleaning.
And a big one the sources highlighted, surface sealing.
What's that exactly?
After you clean concrete, the pores are open.
Yeah.
You sell a sealant application. It's just a liquid you spray or roll on that protects it from oil stains and UV damage. The markup on sealant is massive.
But there is a giant frozen elephant in the room for a lot of our listeners. Winter.
The winter problem, yes.
You can't spray water when it's 20 degrees below zero. You're cleaning, you're building an ice rink.
Right.
Does the business just die for 4 months?
If you aren't smart, yes, you burn through your savings. But the smart operators pivot. Think about the assets they have. Trucks, ladders, insurance, a crew that isn't afraid of heights.
So what is the demand in November and December?
Holiday decorations.
Ah, professional Christmas light installation.
The sources point to this as the Percy symbiotic business. You charge high rates, often $500 to $1,000 per house, using the same guys who are washing roofs in July.
That is brilliant. It uses the exact same asset.
Exactly. And then in January and February, you put a plow on the truck and do snow removal. It turns a seasonal gig into a year-round enterprise.
We've painted a pretty rosy picture here. High margins, scalable, but we have to be realistic. What are the actual risks?
Well, we touched on property damage. That's the financial sword hanging over your head.
Right.
But the physical toll is the other one.
It's not an office job.
Far from it. You are hauling heavy hoses, climbing ladders, wrestling with machines. It is hard on the back, the knees, the joints. The solo operator model is fragile because if you twist your ankle, your revenue hits zero instantly.
And I imagine customer acquisition isn't automatic either.
That's the third risk, sales. The barrier to entry is low, which means the noise is high. You can be the best washer in the world, but if you don't answer your phone or have a good online presence, you won't get the work.
You have to be a marketer first.
And a cleaner second.
So, to summarize the verdict from our sources, it's physically demanding, it has liability risk, and you have to be good at sales, but financially.
Financially, it's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
It is a stability-focused business, as one source put it perfectly. Dirt never takes a holiday. As long as the wind blows and cars drive, things will get dirty. The demand is effectively infinite.
It really challenges that tech-centric view of entrepreneurship we often have. We get so caught up in AI and software. Sometimes the highest ROI is just sitting there on a dirty driveway.
It's tangible value. You show up, it's dirty,
Right.
you leave, it's clean, the customer's instantly gratified, and you get paid. There's something very satisfying about that simplicity.
Before we sign off, I want to leave the listener with a thought that struck me when reading about these commercial subscriptions.
Okay.
We're seeing the subscription economy take over everything. Software, food, entertainment.
Right. Everything is a monthly fee now.
Imagine if that truly moves to residential home maintenance. Instead of calling a washer when you notice the moss, you pay a monthly curb appeal fee. The service isn't cleaning.
The service is that your house never gets dirty.
Exactly. Moving from reactive cleaning to proactive stewardship.
The self-cleaning home as a service?
The company that cracks that psychological code for homeowners, selling them the peace of mind that their house will always look perfect, I think that's the next unicorn in the space.
That is a powerful shift. It changes the relationship from hired help to property partner.
Something to think about the next time you pull into your driveway and judge your own concrete. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.